Good morning, students. Hope you all are fine. Today we will start a new chapter, that is the cherry tree, and it's written by Ruskin Bond. And I hope you all know about Ruskin Bond, right? Still, it's required to inform you about him. So Ruskin Bond, he was born in 19th May 1934, and presently he lives in an Indian family, obviously, and he is an Indian author, and presently he lives in Missouri as well. In 1992, for his novel Our Trees Still Grow in Dehra, for this particular novel he got Sahitya Academy Award, and he plays an important role in the growth of children literature. So I know you all have seen him since his photograph. So let us now understand what he has tried to convey through this particular chapter, the cherry tree, the particular short story. The very beginning of the before I start today's class, I would like to answer some of the students who have asked me some questions. Let me find out. That Oishani Maiti, Oishani has asked about some of the questions in uh, Leaving the Valley, and those questions I have, Oishani, I wish you to watch the video again where I have explained the entire chapter. Yes, the text part, when I explained, it seems that maybe by mistake you have missed all the details. So you need to recheck the video, you need to rewatch the video. Whatever questions you have written over there, all the answers I have given already in the discussion. I could have mentioned the same thing here also, but I want you to not to miss a single class where you cannot means I don't want you to attend any of the classes where you will be will not pay your rapt attention, right? So you need to follow the class the way all are following, right? So you need to rewatch the video again. If you cannot understand, I'm there always for you, but you need to first be attentive, right? Then I come to Anushka Satpati. Again the same thing I want to tell her, that you need to rewatch those classes, and then only you can then also if you cannot get them, you need to write to me. But all of you, it's my request, when you are writing some queries, you are expressing some queries rather, you should mention your email ID where I will be replying, right? Because in this way only you all need to wait for my next class. So better you all provide your email address so that I can contact you, right? Then I would come to Srijan Dakwa and Ritisa Jana. Both of you must use your exercise books that provided by the school. Then what else will you do with that, right? So whatever question answers we are going through, you need to do them in your school exercise book, not in a rough copy, right? Though I do not prefer the word copy, still then I would like to answer Shaumili. Yes, you have to learn all the meanings and the poem. You need to memorize the poem and you need to learn all the word meanings. You all know this, right? Now let us start the cherry tree. At the very beginning of this particular chapter, we find that we were given pictures of 5 trees, and we were asked to identify with the trees, right? So as I cannot ask you, so I will be I know you all can recognize very well, so I will be providing the answers and you need to match. The first one, it means maybe I will be, if I cannot recognize them properly, you all are there to do the correction, right? So the first one, according to me, it's banyan tree. Next one, gulmohar. Third one, coconut. Fourth one, that is deodar. And the last one is number B, that is labana, right? So cherry tree, the picture of a cherry tree is not given, and you need to learn about cherry tree in this passage. So let us start. One day when Rakesh was 6, means his age was 6, was 6 years, he walked home from the Mussoorie bazaar eating cherries. They were a little sweet, a little sour, small, bright red cherries, which had come all the way from the Kashmir valley. So when Rakesh was coming back to his home, while walking, he was enjoying a handful of cherries, and it is explained over there, its color, its taste, and it is from Kashmir valley as well. Next comes, here in the Himalayan foothills where Rakesh lived, there were not many fruit trees. So where he used to live in the Himalaya foothills, there were not many trees. The soil was stony and the dry cold winds stunted the growth of most plants. So here we got the answer why in the Himalayan foothills there were not many trees, because the soil was stony. It was hard, it was like stone, so it was stony, and the dry cold winds and the wind, the atmosphere, it was cold. That stunted means it's prevented the growth of most plants. But on the more sheltered slopes means a kind of valley, a surface that is quite higher than the other part. So but on the more sheltered slopes, there were forests of oak and deodar. So only there you could find oak and deodar forest were in the more sheltered slopes, right? Rakesh lived with his grandfather on the outskirts of Mussoorie. Outskirts means at the outer boundary. Yes, it was not at the center. It was outer boundaries, just where the forest began. So Rakesh used to live with his grandfather, and the place was near about the forest, right? Grandfather was a retired forest ranger. So what was Rakesh's grandfather? He was a retired forest ranger. He had a little cottage outside the town. So in that cottage only they used to live. Rakesh was on his way home from school. Rakesh was on his way home from school when he bought the cherries. So he was coming back from school while he was enjoying a handful of cherries. He paid 50 paise for the bunch. It took him about half an hour to walk home. So it was a distance of half an hour. So while he was walking, he was enjoying his cherries. And by the time he reached the cottage, there were only 3 cherries left. Have a cherry, grandfather? He said. He asked his grandfather, or rather he offered his grandfather a cherry as soon as he saw his grandfather in the garden. Grandfather took 1 cherry and Rakesh promptly ate the other 2. Here we find the natural nature of a 6-year boy, yes, who is fond of cherries, and for the sake of offering, he offered 1 cherry to his grandfather, and he was having a hint that he is not going to take that. But as soon as the grandfather took 1, promptly he ate the other 2, so that he needs not to offer him again, right? He kept, and now here the question may come, then why did grandfather took? Maybe grandfather, or it's obvious the grandfather wanted Rakesh to learn the art of sharing. For that reason, if he would have rejected, then maybe Rakesh would have never learned to offer, right? So he kept the last seed in his mouth for some time, rolling it round and round on his tongue until all the tang had gone. Tang means the strong taste or flavor of the cherry. So last seed he kept within his mouth. So here again we get a hint that he was fond of cherries. And it's quite natural. I know you all sometime may do that, right? Then he placed the seed on the palm of his hand and studied it. Studied means he observed it. Then he placed the seed on his palm and he began to observe it. Are cherry seeds lucky? Asked Rakesh. Now one question came to his mind, that whether the cherry seeds are lucky or not. So he asked his grandfather. Of course, grandfather replied. Then he asked again, then he explained rather, then I will keep it. Now grandfather answers, nothing is lucky if you put it away. If you want luck, you must put it to some use. Here we get an important line, that nothing is lucky if you put it away. If you want luck, you must put it to some use. Yes, you need to apply, you need to use, so that you can find out whether it's lucky or not. Then Rakesh asked, what can I do with the seed? Plant it. Yes, with only a small seed also we can plant, right? And the small seed can provide a large tree, right? So Rakesh found a small spade and began to dig up a flower bed. Now flower bed means a portion of the ground, the garden, where he is going to, where generally the flowers are grown, and he wanted the seed to take place over there. Hey, not there, said grandfather. I have sown mustard in that bed. So grandfather has already placed some seed over there, that is mustard seed. So he advised him, plant it in that shady corner where it won't be disturbed. So no one can touch it. It should be placed in such a way no one can disturb the plant seed to grow up. So he needs to plant the seed in that particular place. Rakesh went to a corner of the garden where the earth was soft. He did not have to dig. He pressed the seed into the soil with his thumb and it went right in. It's quite easy. You all can understand how he placed it in the ground. Then he had his lunch and ran off to play cricket with his friends and forgot all about the cherry seed. Now he has, it's quite natural. Sometimes it happens to us also. With much enthusiasm, we try to do something, and after that we somehow we get involved in our personal works and we forget all about it. Same thing happened with Rakesh. He had his lunch and he went off to play with his friends and he forgot all about the cherry seed. When it was winter in the hills, a cold wind blew down from the snows and went hoo in the deodar trees, and the garden was dry and bare. Now the season changes. The season changes and the winter comes. Okay. And then in the evening, grandfather and Rakesh sat over a charcoal fire and grandfather told Rakesh stories. Then in that season, that winter, in an evening, grandfather told Rakesh some stories, used to tell rather, and on that particular evening also the same thing happened. And what sort of stories he used to say? Stories about people who turned into animals, and in turn Rakesh would read to him from the newspaper, grandfather's eyesight being rather weak. So this was the normal natural scenario, that grandfather would tell him stories and in return Rakesh would read newspaper for him. Yes, as grandfather was having poor eyesight. Yes. Rakesh found the newspaper very dull, especially after the stories, but grandfather wanted all the news. So Rakesh used to do this. They knew it was spring when the wild duck flew north again to Siberia. Now again the season changes, and Rakesh has forgotten all about the cherry seed. Yes, so in this way uh, time passes, time takes its own place, and season also changes. Now after winter, spring comes, and how do they know that it was spring? Because the wild duck flew north again. And where did they fly? They flew away to Siberia. Now again you need to follow my discussion. It will help you to answer some questions. Now again I repeat, how did they know that it was spring? Because they follow the movement of the wild duck who flew north, wild duck that flew north again. And where did they fly? To Siberia. Early in the morning, when he got up to chop wood and light a fire, Rakesh saw the V-shaped formation. V-shaped formation means a shape like the letter V, formed by the flock of birds. They fly all together. So in such a morning, when he got up to chop wood and light a fire, then in that particular time he found that the flock of birds, they streaming northwards, and heard the calls of the birds clearly through the thin mountain air, and he could hear their call as well, right? One morning in the garden, he bent to pick up what he thought was a small twig. Small twig means a very small portion like stem of a plant, and found to his surprise that it was well rooted. Now on such a morning, he bent to pick up something which he thought like a weed or something like a twig, and to his utter amazement or surprise, rather, he found it was well rooted. Now I hope you all understand what was that. It was that small seed of the cherry tree which has started to expand over here, right? He started he stared at it for a moment. Stared means to watch or to see something without blinking your eyes. So he stared at it for a moment. He was trying to identify, he was trying to recollect. Then ran to fetch grandfather, calling, "Dada, come and look, the cherry tree has come up." Then when he remembered, at once he ran to his grandfather by calling him, and he was happy as well. He was surprised also, and he called his grandfather to come up and to watch the cherry tree. So now up to this much we end today. Now what happens, what grandfather says afterwards, we will learn all these things in our next class, right? You need to keep patience for what happens next. Yes, I know you all are now much excited to know what happens next. The same way I am also excited to know whether you all have understood so far I have discussed. For that reason, you need to read the chapter again, and you need to follow the worksheet. The worksheet I will be discussing on my next class, because here I have already answered all those questions. Only you need to watch the video again and again, and then you need to answer them. So I hope you all will learn all the word meanings. You all will do all the works in your school exercise book only, and you all will learn whatever I want you all to learn, right? So till then, till we meet in our next class, take very good care of yourself and keep on doing your works. Goodbye. Thank you.